It sounds smooth. What up, gang? This is KenZerk, KenZilligan, Zika Milligan, the villain, Philip Trilligan, and we are playing Saya no Uda, or the Song of Saya. I heard it was a nice, short, interesting visual novel, so I wanted to get into it. I haven't seen too much about it, but I know it gets kind of crazy. One of my friends, he watched a Let's Play on it a while ago, and he told me not to play it because it was too crazy. But y'all know me, I'm crazy, so there's no way I'm not gonna like this shit. So let's get into it. This story is a work of fiction. The procedures and conditions described herein are imaginating and do not reflect something. Work of fiction contains grotesque images that may disturb some viewers. Please select how you would like such images displayed. Obscure focus. Fuck no, I want to see that shit. The fuck? What did he say? Hey! The wiggling mass of flesh burbles. Grinsily. Three such creatures sit around a table in front of me, slurping filthy sludge from their cups as they trade whines, growls, and sounds that I cannot describe. By listening carefully, I'm able to grasp the gist of their conversation and respond when it is required of me. This is necessary to avoid arousing their suspicion. However, these creatures look. They are my friends, apparently. My nigga, they are not your friends. My nigga, they are not your friends. Look, you are very different from them. I wish that I could still deny it, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Night after night, I went to sleep praying for an end to this nightmare, only to wake up each morning in the same twisted hellscape as the day before. I know now that I have to blend in. I have to act like one of them. Such has been my life for these past 3 months, and so it will remain until the day I die. Judging by its tone, this one must be Koji, and the one next to him squealing more than the others is probably Omi. Which means that the one next to me is Yo, though I can no longer see any trace of her once attractive features. I try my best to ignore the rotten stench of excrement that issues from her quivering flesh. Fuck! Everything has changed, or almost everything. By some cruel trick of fate, my relationship to the world alone remains the same, as if an insane architect took the blueprints of my life and rebuilt it out of blood and gore. These monsters and I were part of the same college club. We studied together, ate together, we even went skiing together every winter break. It's fucking fake! He's like, oh my god, this nigga look traumatized. He probably is! Now these are but painful memories of days that will never return. If only no one recognized me, I might have been able to disconnect myself from the world. It would have been comforting, in comparison, to believe that I had been abducted by aliens, or that I had stumbled through a gateway to hell. But no, this is beyond a doubt the city where I was born and raised, a society that I was part of for 20 years, save that I, and I alone, can no longer see it that way. The world as I knew it is gone. I have no place to call home. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I can tell whatever they're discussing is of no importance to me, so I decide to keep quiet while pretending to listen. But just then... oh shit. Hey, Fuminori! Fuminori! One of the flesh beasts says as it swivels its bloodshot eyes towards me. What do you think? About what? I tried desperately to suppress my loathing and behave normally, but my hoarse voice ruins the attempt. We're talking about this ski trip. You're coming to the right? A slimy hole near the top of the creature writhes nauseatingly as it vomits some semblance of words. That must be Koji's face, or what I would have seen as such 3 months ago. Unable to stomach the sight of it, I avert my eyes and give a neutral answer. I don't know. You have other plans? Not really. These are my closest companions. One of them had even wished to be more. How many nights have I spent crying in loneliness, lamenting the friends who no longer exist? In 3 months, my tears ran dry, and now there's only loathing left in me, surrounded by hideous creatures that I can only assume are Koji, Omi, and Yo. I spend each day trying to act as I always have. If I fail at this, I'll surely be sent back to the hospital. Only this time I'll be locked away forever. No matter what, I won't let that happen. I mean, it's not like physical activity could affect their injuries, right? I'm not sure. I'll ask the doctor during my checkup. That's it. I can't look at them or bear their screeching any longer. I jump to my feet, desperate to escape. Hey, food delivery! A spray of stringy slime from the cilia around its voice box flies at me. I try to cover myself, but it's too late. But too late to keep the slime from splattering across my face like the yolk of a rotten egg. I'm about to lose my fucking mind. I want to grab a chair, a desk, anything within reach, and use it to smash the life out of this creature, ending it all. I barely suppress the impulse inversion. I mustn't let on that something is wrong. However they look at me, this is their world. I'm the outsider here. Like I said, today's my checkup. I've got to go. Struggling to put on a smile, I reach into my wallet, pull out the first bill I find, and put it on the table without even looking at it. I don't give a fuck about change. I just need to get the hell out of here now. Later, I mutter hastily and flee the cafeteria. I'm not crazy. I don't know, bro. You might be crazy. Hold on, she's fine. Hey! Shut the fuck up. Hey, says Takahata Omi. Why don't we go somewhere we can skate for this year's ski trip? Sukuba Yo frowns at the suggestion. Skate? But why go on a ski resort to skate? Give her a break, Subuka. It's all she talks about these days. Tona Koji supports Omi with a laugh. Her impromptu suggestions are nothing new, and it's Koji's role as her boyfriend to provide backup. They're a good match for each other, Yo thinks. Sometimes it makes her jealous. I mean, she's seriously never gone skating before I took it the other day. Hey, is it really that strange? Not many people start skating in their 20s, you know? I was scared when I was little. Those shoes look like big knives. But you picked it up just like that. That's pretty amazing, Omi. It's a lot like skiing. You keep your weight forward and use the angle of your shoes to steer. He made it sound so easy, I figured I'd give it a try. And it was fun. So it was a date. Yo feels a stab of envy. Koji and Omi enjoy their time together as normal lovers do. That's certainly not something that should make her jealous. It's just that her luck in love has been bad. Oh, well, I want to see Omi skate too. Yo keeps her voice upbeat, trying to cover her disquiet. She knows that it's wrong to envy your friends. She too would be spending time with the man she admires, if not for the terrible tragedy that befall him. His is true misfortune. Her bad luck doesn't begin to compare. So how about it? If we make the next ski trip a skating trip too, it'll be twice as fun. Well, you can skate at a skating rink, can't you? Why go all the way to a ski resort? I don't want to skate indoors. I want to skate outside, on a lake or something. That sounds fun, but won't it be crowded? While speaking, Yo sneaks a sideways glance at the young man sitting next to her. Although the conversation has only involved 3 people so far, there are in fact 2 couples in the cafeteria table. Yo's boyfriend, though there's still some doubt over whether he could be called that, is beside her. as silent and expressionless as a statue.
なあ、文則。お前はどう思う?
Oh, okay, we're seeing their perspective now. We're seeing their perspective. Hey, Fuminori, what do you think? Perhaps Koji sensed Yo's pain in his usual quiet and considerate way.
どうって。
About what? The cause of Yo's distress, Sakisaka Fuminori responds to Koji's sudden query with a vague, mumbled question of his own.
いや、だからさ。
We're talking about this winter ski trip. You're coming too, right?
お前も行くよな。
Koji speaks gingerly, as though probing a tumor. A few months ago, he would not have hesitated to rebuke Fuminori for his attitude. Their long acquaintance had forged a strong and honest friendship, but now, I don't know. Fuminori responds bluntly, his downcast eyes and sullen demeanor making it clear he has no desire to break his silence. You have plans? Not really. Even Koji, Fuminori's best friend, can't communicate with him as before. What hope does Yo have of breaking through his shell? The scars left by the events of the late summer day are still deep all these months later. Each one of the four bears them, not only Fuminori. I mean, it's not like physical activity could affect your injuries, right? Not sure. I'll ask my doctor during my checkup. As though the answer drained the last of his patience, Fuminori bolts out of his chair. Hey, Fuminori! Even Koji can't keep his voice from rising as he tries to stop Fuminori from leaving. Fuminori reacts swiftly, throwing his hands over his face as though to shield himself from something terrifying. Maybe some spit flew inadvertently from Koji's mouth, but that happens sometimes. Fuminori's reaction is beyond the pale. Like I said, Fuminori snaps, making no attempt to relieve the discomfort of his friends. Today's my checkup, I have to go. Even as he tosses money on the table to pay for his coffee, he acts like he's touching something filthy. Later. Fuminori stalks out of the cafeteria almost as if he's running. Cloaked in heavy silence, the remaining three lower their gaze at the table where the abandoned 10,000 yen bill sways forlornly. Fuminori's coffee is untouched. I can't take this anymore, Omi says with a sigh, but Koji shakes his head reproachfully. What I'm thinking is going on, whatever that accident happened, I think it fucked with him more. Like, whatever that accident happened, it fucked up his brain, and now he's just seeing shit in such a twisted way, and he can't get out of it. He said he's not crazy, but I like not saying that he is crazy, but I think whatever that accident was, it rearranged his brain in some way that's making him see shit like that. Fuminori just needs a little more time. But it's been 3 months. What's with his attitude? I feel like I'm going crazy hanging around him. Hey, I don't understand what he's going through either. I don't think any of us can. Can you imagine losing your whole family like that? That'd screw anyone up. It could have happened to anyone. A tractor trailer flipped over on the highway, crushing the Sakisaka family car in a twisted scrap. They said it had been difficult to tell the bodies of Fujinori's parents apart. For a while, it had looked as if there were no hope for Fuminori either. It was nothing short of a miracle that he was able to leave the hospital and return to a normal life. He was worse when we went to see him in the hospital, remember? He was terrified of us, like he didn't know who we were. He even had to be tied to the bed, he freaked out so bad. I'm just glad he's made it this far. There's still something strange about him. What's with the way he looks at us? It's like we're not even human. Should I tell him? Cut it out on me, Koji says forcefully, probably less out of empathy for his friend and more out of consideration for Yo. While Koji's kindness makes her happy, Yo also knows that she mustn't take advantage of it. Fuminori is the victim, just as Koji said. He's the one who deserves sympathy. Yo's feelings for Fuminori are her problem, and no one else's. She doesn't blame Fuminori for not giving her an answer after she worked up the courage to ask him out. In fact, she thinks even more fondly of him for taking the time to consider than she would if he had treated the relationship casually. Apparently, The fact that Fuminori didn't reject her was enough to make them a couple in Koji and Omi's eyes. They've had plenty of fun at Yo and Fuminori's expense since. The truth of it though, is that he still hasn't given her an answer. After revealing her feelings to him, Yo didn't see Fuminori again until a week later, and then she could only stare at his broken body through the window of the ICU. And when he was finally released, after 50 days that seemed like eternity, he was somehow different. She's starting to doubt that he even remembers what she confessed to him before the accident. Now winter's coming, and her feelings hang forgotten in the cold, lonely air. Damn. That's fucked up. Dr. Tambo Ryoko has never had a more troublesome patient. Damn, she fine. Any changes since your last visit? No, nothing to speak of. His voice is hard and flat. His words tossed carelessly into the air. It's like he's speaking to himself in an empty room. Ryoko is a surgeon, not a psychiatrist, but even she can sense the thickness of the wall he's erected between himself and the world. Any nausea, dizziness, or hallucinations? No. While Sakisaka appears to be looking at Ryoko, his gaze is actually aimed a fraction down and to the side. He's only superficially engaged in the conversation, when in truth it does not interest him in the slightest. Perfect rejection. Realizing that she can't interview him like this, Ryoko sighs and sets her chart aside. Mr. Sakisaka, the procedure you received at this hospital was the latest in experimental neurosurgery. We explained this before, didn't we? The treatment of subdural hematoma through the use of micro machines, a procedure available in Japan exclusively here at T University, had been the only way to save Sakisaka Fuminori from the cerebral contusion that should have been fatal. With any experimental treatment, there's always a risk of an unexpected complication. Of course. Sakisaka Fuminori's lips twist slightly in what might be bitter or mocking smile, but it's gone before Ryoko can discern its meaning. Normally, I would never say anything to frighten a patient, but there have been reports of serious neurological disorders post-surgery. We must continue to monitor your condition carefully. Hence these weekly checkups. If only he would take them a little more seriously. How was last week's MRI? Sakisaki asked abruptly, as if to catch Ryoko off guard. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, is a way for doctors to examine the brain in detail without opening the patient's skull. Surprised by Sakisaki's uncommon technical knowledge, Ryoko recalls his profile. Oh, that's right. You're a medical student, aren't you? That kind of anomaly you're worried about should show up on an MRI, right? Did you find anything? No. There was nothing, not even the slightest hint of abnormal activity. For a procedure with such a low rate of success, the result had been nothing short of miraculous. However, something still bothers Ryoko. She can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something beneath his guarded exterior. Some terrible weight on his soul, perhaps. But if it's an inorganic problem, then there's nothing she can do as long as he refuses to explain it. I'm fine. I've been on my own for 3 months without any problems. What could go wrong now? Bro, just tell her! Well, I guess it's hard for him because she probably looks like a monster to him. So he's probably terrified to tell the monster that he's seeing monsters. Please, you know that continued observation is required after these difficult surgeries. You have to trust us a little more. I suppose you're right. I do want to trust you, Doctor. Can I come to you with anything? Yes, of course. Ryoko answers, smiling to cover up her irritation. Sakisaki asked the same exact question during last week's visit. Well then, let's pick up where we left off. Have you learned anything about Dr. Ogai? Unable to answer, Ryoko hardens the mask of her smile. As before, the patient is inquiring about someone whom he has no business knowing. If you don't mind my asking, what does Dr. Ogai have to do with your treatment? You just told me to trust you and now you're keeping secrets. Ryoko is used to patients treating her with hostility. Some degree of paranoia is natural when dealing with a person who mistakes could kill you. In Sakisaka, however, She doesn't see the anxiety that other patients exhibit. His demeanor is perfectly calm, almost like a detective questioning a suspect. He left this hospital some time ago. I never had contact with him myself. Do you know why he left? Yes, I believe it was personal. Ryoka answered smoothly, her earlier hesitation gone, having decided at the outset to lie. She has no trouble doing so with a straight face. But why do you keep asking about Dr. Ogai? Are you acquainted? Did you know that a doctor's gone missing? No. Ryoko realizes that her answer may have been a little too quick. She should have acted more surprised. I've recently become close with a relative of his. It was she who asked me to find him. A relative? Ryoko considers this with a frown. I didn't think Dr. Ogai had any relatives. Oh, who told you that? I heard it from a nurse. Ryoko replies, remembering that she just claimed to have no contact with the man. I see. The doctor was famous enough to have nurses gossiping about him. I hear he was an unusual man. But no one knows why he left the university. Ryoko falls silent, knowing this isn't a topic she can brush away with a smile. Saki seems to have finally grasped their mood. However, as his strangely stiff tone softens a little. Please, I have to find Dr. Ogai. There's a girl who needs him. Can't you help me? Isn't it something the police should handle? Although she makes it seem like the obvious thing in the world, the suggestion is actually a gamble. If Ogai Masahiko's disappearance becomes a police matter, then the university will be investigated. Everyone who was involved in the incident will be at risk of exposure. Incident? Huh? And of course, that includes Ryoko herself. They fucking murdered this nigga! They murdered this nigga, bro! She knows, however, that Saki is unlikely to go to the police. First of all, his excuse is obviously a lie. They already made sure that Ogai had no relatives who might come looking for him, which is why they could bury the truth of what happened. But then how did Saki, a mere patient, learn about Ogai? I'd be happy to help, but there's been no word from Dr. Ogai since he resigned last April. I can only assume he's gone on an extended vacation. I see. Expecting resistance, Ryoko is surprised when Saki backs down. She's still worried about his condition, and the mysterious link between him and Ogai is only making her more uneasy. But as long as he doesn't open up to her, there's nothing she can do. After a brief pause, Ryoko writes progress good on Saki's chart for today. About next week's appointment, how does 4 o'clock again sound? Before she can finish, Saki is gone. It looks like someone sprayed the walls with pig guts from ceiling to floor. What color should the walls of a hospital be? White, of course. And to the creatures of rotten flesh shambling around me, I'm sure this hallway looks just as white as it should. I know intellectually that the walls are white. I know that the flesh beasts are really human. I'm the one with the problem. It is because I've accepted this that I'm able to lead something approaching a normal life. Even if my university's medical department is nowhere near as good as T University's, I'm still a medical student specializing in neurology. I have a basic idea of what's happening to me, though it's hard to believe. This isn't a pathological condition. It's probably some form of agnosia, unlike anything that's ever been studied before. The flesh beast called Tanbo Ryoko said that other patients had developed neurological disorders after receiving the same treatment I did, so I guess I'm just another failure. It makes me want to laugh in that know-it-all doctor's face. That said, I don't blame the doctors who operate on me. After all, I do owe them my life. I know as well as anyone how low the chance of success was, that I had no other hope of survival. I was unlucky, that's all there is to it. The point is that my condition isn't treatable. Just like someone adapting to a hearing aid or wheelchair, I have no choice but to adapt to this nauseating scenery. Of course it's hard. I wasn't able to resign myself to this fate. But now there's more than just despair. Even for me, there's a glimmer of hope. Keeping my eyes on my feet, I hurry home. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, in a house that's too large for me alone. My parents, even unluckier than I was, died in an accident 3 months ago. I couldn't even go to the funeral for being in intensive care. I had to sell my father's business, but at least that left me with the house and enough money to live on for a while. Of course, I'm sad, but the accident took more from me than my parents. In fact, being on my own has probably saved me. If they were still alive, my parents would never have allowed me to live with some strange girl. Welcome home! As I open the door, a bright voice greets me from the kitchen. The voice is beautiful and clear as a bell, human. Its sweet sound washes the day's cacophony from my memory. I'm home, Saya. Even the patter... Hold on. Oh, it's got the la. I love that. I love when songs do that. I'm home, Saya. Even the patter of feet coming down the hallway is music to my ears. The song of Saya? Nowhere else in the city can I hear such footsteps. Only in this house, with Saya. Am I so privileged? You're late. I was a little worried. Aw, she's so cute. Sorry, I had to stop by the hospital today. Oh, that was today? And her smile, the inquisitive tilt of her head, is everything I've lost. Since my accident, this girl is the only person I've met. Perhaps the only person in the world who does not trigger my cognitive disorder. True, her skin seems too white, and the color of her eyes and hair is probably different in reality. But even so, her form is undeniably human. And it's not just her appearance and her voice either. As I bend down to take off my shoes, Saya wraps her arms around my neck and pulls me gently into her chest. Her skin feels truly human, not cold or slimy, and from her hair wafts a sweet feminine fragrance. In all the world, only Saya is pleasing to my five senses. And what's more, she smiles at me, embraces me. She knows that she is my salvation, and for some reason is happy that I need her. If I had not met Saya, if I had been all alone in this twisted, filth-ridden world, I would no doubt have succumbed to madness. It's no exaggeration to say that Saya alone is keeping me alive. What did you do today? Worked on the living room. The painting's half done, and now I'm making your dinner like I learned from the TV. Sounds good. It'll take a little longer. Can you wait? Sure, I'll do some more work in the living room. After I see the humming Saya off to the kitchen, I step into the living room. I realized one day that if the natural colors of the world were sickening, all I had to do was paint over them with colors that seemed pleasant. I went to the hardware store and bought every color of paint I could find. Then Saya and I tried different combinations until we found one that worked. After painting the bedroom from ceiling to floor, I was finally able to get my first good night's sleep since the accident. When we first started on the living room, Saya, unsure of what to do with the curtains, just painted carefully around the windows. Without a moment's hesitation, I tore the curtains down and painted over the glass itself. There will never be anything out there that I'd want to see, and as long as we keep the storm shutters closed, the neighbors probably won't think anything of it. Dinner's ready! Can you bring it here? As she enters the living room with a tray of food, Saya sniffs the air. The paint smell doesn't bother you? Now that she mentions it, I suppose the smell of paint thinner should be building up in its closed room. It doesn't really bother me though. There are far worse smells outside. Does it bother you? No, I'm fine if you are. Saya sets her food on the table. Unfortunately, neither its color nor smell is at all appetizing. Not that food elsewhere is any different. Thanks, Saya. As has become a routine, I steel myself and methodically transport the food into my mouth. The taste is gut-wrenching as I expected. I'm visualizing what he might be eating right now and it's killing my soul. The taste is as gut-wrenching as I expected, but it's not Saya's fault. I'm sure she made it exactly like the cooking show has said. It's just that my taste buds can't accept it. It's not good? She asked hesitantly. Well, no. Lying won't make Saya happy. She knows about my condition. Don't worry about it. I'll make something different tomorrow. Sorry, you always go through the trouble of cooking, but It's fine. If I keep trying, maybe I'll find something you'll like. In my current state, eating is nothing more than an unwelcome duty. As much as I hate it, I need food to survive. If I stay alive, then perhaps one day, as Saya says, I'll be able to taste something delicious again. I met Saya, didn't I?
さやは食べないの？
Aren't you gonna eat? No, I already ate. In all the time we've been together, Saya has never once eaten with me. I don't know why she refuses to do so. It makes me a little sad. Still, I'm not about to push the issue. Not when she's putting up with all the problems I have.
そういえば
By the way,
もう一度
I asked about your father again.
聞いてみた。
You did? Dr. Ogai Masahiko is Saya's father, and her only living relative. Saya has asked me to unravel the mystery of his
やっぱ
disappearance.
り何も教えてくれない。
They still wouldn't tell me anything.
何か
I get the feeling they're hiding something.
そう
Oh. I expected Saya to be a little more disappointed.
心配じゃないのかい？
You haven't given up, have you?
ううん
No.
そういうわけじゃない
Saya responds with an unreadable expression. It's not that. She gives a little shake of her head and smiles at me once again.
ありがとう
Thanks for all you're doing for me.
君はそれ以上のことを
It's nothing compared to what you've done for
く
me.
れるんだ。
I thank her for my meal and set my chopsticks down next to the perfectly clean plate. As wretched as the taste was, thinking of the care that Saya put into it gave me the strength to finish every bite.
じゃあお風呂に
Is it bath time?
まあ
Yeah. Will you wash my back again?
背中流して
Sure. Ever since Saya moved in, it's been like having my own wife. That's a nice joke. Because you definitely don't mean that. Saya, why are you so good to me? Is this truly what you want? What am I that you can give yourself to? What am I that you can give yourself to me, body and soul? Is it merely sympathy? Do you pity me, the exile from society? Is that enough for you to surrender yourself to such mad desire? Are you so wanton? Saya is here. She is with me now. Only in this moment is her existence certain. Only when I am joined with her can I believe. Joined with her? No matter what cruel fate might await me, Saya, there's nothing I fear more than losing you.
みのり泣いてるの
Fuminori, are you crying? I realize that my cheeks are wet with tears.
ください。
Why, Saya?
なぜ僕にこ
Why do you go so far from me?
みのり
わからない。
I don't understand it.
わからない。
I don't.
僕だけが
But I'm losing myself to you more every day. I can't live without you, Saya.
気になしちゃう。
I wrap my arms tighter around her, praying our bodies will melt together and never again be apart. Tell me, please, what must I do to keep you with me? How can I repay you?
すればいい。
こうやって抱いていて
I want to look up how old she is, but I kind of don't because, like, I don't want it to end up being a spoiler. Like, she's some fucking 1,000-year-old monster, and then I just spoiled the ending for myself. But, my nigga, come on, dude. Keep holding me, Saya whispers into my
み
chest.
のりに抱いてもら
I
う
want to stay like this forever.
私は
I won't leave you, Fuminori.
なぜ
Why?
なぜ僕なんだ。
Why me?
それはね
Because you're all alone, she says softly, gazing up into my eyes. All alone, just like me.
一人ぼっちだった
The sorrow in her voice resonates with my own. There's a deep loneliness in her eyes, a loneliness from which now springs boundless
だ
affection.
からさやにも
You're all I have.
ただ一人
In
だ
the whole wide world, only you will embrace me, my precious Fuminori. Now I know. No matter what horrors this world unleashes upon me, all I'll ever need is Saya. I feel like she evil, like she manipulating shit. Yo is determined to talk to him today. Nothing will happen as long as she hesitates. It would only prolong her suffering. The time has come to show courage once again. Yo's fourth period and Thursdays is biology. This is her one chance to see Fuminori. As a required course with many students, the lecture is held in a large hall that can seat well over 200. But since the room is usually only half full, it's rarely difficult for Yo to find the seat she wants. Yo prefers to sit next to the center, where it's easiest to hear the professor. Most of the students congregate in this area for the same reason. Fuminori usually sits beside her. Although given the ambiguous state of their relationship, she knows better than to take this for granted. Still, she tries to save a seat for whenever possible. The classroom isn't crowded today, so Yo is able to set her bag on the seat next to her without inconveniencing anyone. But when the professor arrives at the usual start of class, there's still no sign of Fuminori. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yo scans the room furtively. Fuminori is there, sitting alone in the back corner. Did he miss Yo when he came in? No, he couldn't have. And besides, no serious student would willingly sit so far away from the front. Feeling miserable, Yo slides her bag back over to herself. Fuminori is out the door the moment class ends. Yo barely manages to catch up to him before he disappears down the hallway. Fuminori! Fuminori jerks at the sound of his name. You would think she just screamed at him.
何か
What? He turns and asks reluctantly. Now that they are face to face, Yo is painfully aware of how much weight Fuminori has lost. His sunken eyes and protruding cheekbones are a far cry from the features familiar to her. She wonders whether he's under a lot of stress, or perhaps not getting enough nutrition. Maybe it's both. He definitely looks more tense than he should, afraid even. Though of what she can't imagine. His eyes move restlessly from point to point, and he refuses to look Yo in the eye. It hurts to see Fuminori this way. What could have changed him so? Today she reminds herself, rekindling the flame of courage in her heart. I want to talk to you about something. Do you have some time?
ちょっといいですか?
The courtyard is empty. No one is willing to sit and chat in the cold November air.
話って何?
So what is it? Don't you remember? Yo almost blurts the question, but manages to keep her composure.
咲坂さん
You've been acting strange lately. I'm worried about you.
そうかもね。
Well, a lot's happened.
あんな目にあった後だから。
He smiles like it's nothing, but even that seems forced. He's even standing precisely one pace further from her than he used to.
本当に
Is that really all?
君にはそれだけじゃない。
What more do you want? Yo manages to keep from flinching at the harshness of his tone. It's like you're struggling with something. Rather than answer, Fuminori grinds his toe into the dead grass at his feet, fearing that her determination might flag. Yo lets the words come as they
ど
may.
うしようもないものを
It's like there's a terrible weight on your
壊れ
shoulders,
そうになるほ
and
ど
it's slowly breaking
言
you.
ったのを咲坂さん
That's how you look to me.
そうかい。
Oh, really? Fuminori mutters through clenched teeth, no longer trying to deny or change the topic. This is an even clearer signal of rejection than his prior evasiveness. But Yo's determination is strong. Today, at least, she won't back down.
友達って
It's times like
こん
these,
な時のために
she implores, trying to convey the sincerity of her feelings for him, that you need your friends.
ご家族のことは
I feel really bad about your parents. But you're not alone. You have Koji and Omian. You have me. Yo can no longer stop the words pouring from her lips. She fears that if she does not unleash her feelings now, they will be lost forever.
一人ですごいこと
I think we can help you, so you don't have to deal with it all by yourself. Even if we cannot do anything, just talking by us might make you feel better. I want to help you. We all do. So please tell me.
やめてくれ。
Stop it! Fuminori shouts, silencing Yo's entreaty. She promised herself she wouldn't back down, but Fuminori's expression is terrible enough to shatter her resolve. The look in his eyes is not anger, or any other warm-blooded emotion. It is hate. Murderously cold hate.
そういえば君には一つ。
Come to think of it,
返事しなきゃいけ
I
ない。
never gave you an answer, did I? He remembers. He remembers, and he still has treated her so coldly. That is all the answer she needs. If his words stab any deeper, she might very well
僕
die.
は君のことをとりわけ
I never saw you in any special way before. When you asked me out, I wasn't sure how to respond.
僕が君のことを
I didn't know how I really felt about you then.
でも
Fuminori, but now I can give you an
声
answer.
が出てる。
I've had plenty of time to think it over, you know?
筑波さん、
I hate you, Subuka.
僕
I don't even want to look at
大
you.
嫌いだ。
Don't cry,
ない
Yo tells herself, but too late to stop the tears pouring from her eyes.
もう二度と会いたくない。
I suppose it's too much hope to. I suppose it's too much hope. I suppose it's too much to hope I never see you again. We do go to the same school. So just make this the last time you speak to me, okay? Your voice makes me sick. How can you be so cruel? Yo whispers in shock and despair. To which Fuminori twists his lips into a malevolent smile. You should really try thinking for yourself once in a while. I bet it was Koji and Omi's idea, wasn't it? Well, you can play at love all you want, but leave me out of it. That's all Yo can take. Even after shedding tears in front of him, she absolutely refuses to let him hear her cry. Any disgrace would be preferable to breaking down here. So she runs, fleeing breathlessly from the courtyard with Fuminori's cold smile at her back. Damn. Omi was the first to catch sight of Yo and Fuminori leaving for the courtyard. Reluctant to interrupt them, but still unwilling to leave them alone, she and Koji ended up watching the whole thing from the shadows. That asshole. Throughout the exchange, Omi was clearly itching to jump out and punch Fuminori in the face. Knowing her temper, Koji kept firm hold of her arm until the end. If he hadn't, she might very well have done it. Fuminori leaves after Yo, his every step seeming to take an act of willpower. Koji sighs heavily into the once more empty courtyard, but the bitter taste in his mouth won't go away. What's wrong with him? Even Koji can't forgive Fuminori's treatment of Yo. However, the first thing he feels is confusion, not anger. Koji's known Fuminori since long before college. Fuminori was never this cruel before. There's no question now that the accident changed him. Are you just gonna let this go? I don't want to, but what can we do? Something besides watch! Omi shouts, her face red with fury. I won't be satisfied until I give him a piece of my mind. That won't make Subuka feel better. But it'll make me feel better! Yo and Omi are best friends, just like Koji and Fuminori. In fact, it was the relationship between Koji and Omi that I brought the other two together. Omi's anger is only natural. I'm going to talk to him alone. You don't have to come. You serious? Take care of Yo for me, will you? She's probably really hurt. She'll need someone to be nice to her after she's done crying. Wait, shouldn't we switch jobs? You know how I am. If I try to comfort her, I'll end up making it worse. Yeah, you got a point. Hey. Anyway, just go easy, okay? Ending the conversation before Omi's mood gets any worse, Koji heads off to find Yo. I feel awful, miserable, but also refreshed. I finally crossed the line. I knew it would come crashing down like this sooner or later. Having become unable to feel anything but disgust for other people, there was no way I could hope to maintain the relationships I had before the accident. Today's incident will definitely get back to Koji and Omi. Then everyone will be convinced I've had a major change of character. Honestly, I don't care anymore. At least I probably won't be committed for this. I just need to avoid acting any stranger than I already have. If this puts a rift between me and the others, good. The thought of all the stress I'll avoid brings a smile to my face. I'm fed up with them sticking their noses in my life. It's like they don't care that they make my gut turn just by being near me. I've been terrified of them until now, but today I struck fear into one of them. In that sense, it's something of relief, but I'm not entirely without remorse for what happened. The person I just demolished with the verbal equivalent of a nuclear bomb used to be my friend Yo. Even if my senses don't believe it, my mind accepts the theory. I don't have any particular grudge against Yo herself, and I didn't want to hurt her. In retrospect, perhaps I should have just ignored her outright. Yo was an attractive girl. I certainly didn't think badly of her. To be honest though, I was annoyed when Koji and Omi tried to stick us together. It felt like they were using us as entertainment, and Yo seemed totally oblivious to the fact that she was dancing to their tune. Her cluelessness was irritating. Still, I knew none of them meant any harm. Back then, I didn't have any reason to hurt others just to get my way. If having a casual relationship with Yo would keep our circle of friends together, I was willing to make that compromise. Now, however, There's no room in my heart for such forbearance. Merely talking to someone is an ordeal, and how can I be expected to show them kindness? These ruminations have left me exhausted. I want to return to Saya as soon as possible, but thinking about the packed trains and crowded downtown streets between here and home saps my spirit. Catching sight of a nearby bench, I sit down and close my eyes to the horrors of the world. I can't do anything about the stink or the noise, but at least I can calm my nerves enough to rest. When I regained consciousness in the T University hospital ward, the world was as dark as it is now. I had not yet recovered my sight, even though my eyes and optical nerves were undamaged. It must have been an after effect of the accident. Blindness was a shock, but now I know that my suffering then was nothing. After all, my senses of hearing, touch, taste, and smell were all fine at the time. The real horror began when my sight returned. The one small mercy that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. The one small mercy that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. I panicked when I first saw the nightmarish hospital and the blood-curdling shapes of doctors and nurses, but I soon guessed the cause. It chills me to think of what might have happened if I had recovered my sight along with my consciousness. Suddenly waking up in what could only be described as hell, I would have no doubt lost my mind instantly. Soon my disorder spread to the senses of touch, taste, and smell. As it turns out, sight exerts tremendous influence over the other four. The taste of my food, the feel of my bed sheets, the fragrance of my good wildflowers, all became as unbearably foul as my eyes said they should be. Eventually, when the doctors' voices became unrecognizable as human, I decided to kill myself. I didn't believe for a second that I could live in this new world. At least not until I met Saya. One night, while thinking of a painless way to die, I found myself succumbing to sleep, drifting between the nightmares and my dreams and the nightmare of reality. I didn't notice her enter my room. The next thing I know, there was a face staring down at me from next to my bed. The face was not covered in pus or slime, or earthworm-like feelers. It had smooth white cheeks, round eyes, a lovely little nose, all things I had never expected to see again. The face was that of a girl, undeniably human and positively glowing with beauty. Ah, I sighed in admiration, savoring the first piece of joy, the first peace and joy since regaining my sight. She had not noticed such a reaction apparently. "Aren't you afraid of me?" she asked, looking at the clock. I saw that it was exactly 3 in the morning. No time for a young girl to be alone in the hospital. Perhaps she expected me to mistake her for a ghost. But I would not have cared if she was a ghost. Either way, she was a godsend. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" "I'm Saya. I'm looking for my dad." I assumed that she was the daughter of a late shift doctor or another patient. It was unusual but not unthinkable for a girl to be wandering around the hospital. "It's no fun if you're not scared." "Wait!" I cried, desperate to keep her from leaving. It was only after she turned around that I realized I hadn't thought of what to say next. "Well?" Her beautiful eyes drew me in, healing my soul to its core. Through the white haze clouding my mind, I struggled to form a coherent sentence. I shouldn't do this to a girl, but you're the only one I can ask." No longer concerned with propriety, I let the words come as they willed. "Will you let me hold your hand?" Saya looked confused, of course, but then she smiled like she just found a new toy. Her smile was brighter than my memories of the sun. "You're strange," she said, holding out her slender white hand. "No one's asked me anything like that before." Ever so carefully, as though catching snowflakes, I placed my palm against hers. I could feel her human warmth and the softness of her delicate fingers. She was there, just beyond the palm of my hand. Thinking back to the joyful tears I shed then, I know that this is the moment I was saved from my fate. This is the first time in weeks that I've touched someone and felt them as human. I can't touch anyone else. I was in an accident. And as a side effect of the surgery, I can't see people as human anymore. How mysterious. You're interesting, she said, winding her fingers gently around mine. Can I come back tomorrow night? Yes, of course. But are you sure that's okay? Don't worry, she replied. The night belongs to me. This bitch a vampire? So our rendezvous began. Saya came to my room every night at 3 a.m., skillfully taking advantage of the duty nurse's shift change. I was astonished to learn that she was living inside the hospital. It's so big I never run out of places to hide, she said, answering my surprise with a nonchalant smile. She had been living in the suburbs with her father, she told me, until one day he suddenly stopped coming home. After she had tired of waiting, Saya decided one night to sneak into the hospital where he'd worked, and there she'd lived for over 2 months, searching for his whereabouts all the while. Don't you have to go to school? No, Dad taught me everything I need to know. I'm really smart. She was a strange girl. On one hand, she looked and acted like a child. On the other, she was remarkably self-reliant, and at times exhibited a sharp intelligence and deep knowledge that many may have found unsettling. I didn't care. Saya was the only other human in the world gone mad, and only other human in the world gone mad. Her existence meant far more to me than the standards of society. Aren't you worried you might get caught? Nope! I don't have to worry about food here, and it's a lot more fun than staying in Dad's house by myself. I looked through the patients list and found the ones who have mental problems. Saya continued, grinning mischievously. Sometimes I sneak into their rooms late at night and scare them. Even if they raise a fuss, no one believes what mental patients say. That's fucked up. They just brush it off as a bad dream. Her confession reminded me that the hospital was famous for its ghost stories. Who could have imagined that there was actually a real girl impishly roaming these halls? So that's why you came to my room the first time. Yeah, sorry. Are you mad? While the pranks were hardly praiseworthy, I couldn't bring myself to scold her for the very thing that had brought us together. You shouldn't do it anymore. Will you come talk to me instead? Yeah, that's more fun for me too. With extreme care, I was able to conceal my sensory disorder. It was glaringly obvious that the doctors had no way to cure me, and the fact that I had undergone a still experimental procedure made me even more cautious. As a medical student, it was easy for me to imagine how the doctors would react if they discovered that I was exhibiting such unusual side effects. I was not about to become a guinea pig, a mere specimen to be examined with clinical detachment. And so I hid my discomfort and loathing behind a mask of normalcy, convincing the doctors that any sign of stress was merely a result of hospitalization. Saya was my support. Looking forward to her nightly visits gave me the strength to endure my daily torture. Hope can make an enormous difference in a patient's progress. With the aid of my secret nurse, I recovered at a pace that left the doctors stunned. On the last night before my release, I summoned my courage and asked her, "Are you gonna stay here forever?" Yeah, I couldn't learn anything about my dad, but it's not like I have anywhere else to go. I guess I'll stay as long as I can hide. In other words, there was nothing keeping her there. Why not stay with me? I asked timidly. The question took all the courage I had. My family's gone, so I have plenty of room. You won't even need to hide, and it's not a bad place to live. You want me to live with you? I was too afraid to ask her what she thought of that, so I hastily offered a deal. In exchange, I'll help you look for your father. I'll find him no matter what. I think that's gonna be hard, Saya said, looking a little embarrassed. Dad probably did something bad and had to leave the hospital. We can't get the police involved. You'll have to be as discreet as possible. I'll do whatever it takes. Unable to control myself, I finally spoke the truth. I can't be apart from you. At first she looked bewildered, But after a few moments of silence, she said,
少しだけ
"Give me a little time."
考えさせて。
That night, she left my room earlier than usual. On the day of my release, I managed to smile as I accepted the hideous, foul-smelling celebratory bouquet. The flesh beasts calling themselves Koji, Omi, and Yo came to pick me up. Though they had come to see me many times during my stay, it never got easier to see my friends change so horribly. My sudden tears of despair drew suspicion, but I managed to explain them away as tears of joy. When we walked to Koji's car, I looked desperately for Saya amid the grotesque scenery. Even as we drove away, I kept watching the hospital fade into the distance, praying for a last glimmer of hope. But Saya never appeared. After Koji and the others dropped me off, I paused a while to regard my surroundings. I had lived my entire life on this block, in this house. There was no other place I could call home. But nothing was as I remembered. As I walked up the path to the front door, I took in the yard where I spent my childhood. I can feel those memories being defiled by the twisted, festering shapes around me. Inside the house, I found nothing familiar, nothing to offer me comfort and warmth. What I had once called home was now a whole nother world. I have no home. I whispered with a smile of self-pity. There was one last stop to make, one last hammer into my coffin. I stepped into the room that had cradled me from childhood. The walls were prepared with human entrails, a bed of a tangled mass of worm flesh. But none of that mattered. There, curled up on the bed like an abandoned cat, was Saya. As I stood there in shock, she looked up at me and a tiny, weak voice said,
本当に
"Can I really stay?" I responded by sweeping her into my arms, embracing her tightly so that she would not escape. Saya did not resist. When she arrives at the Sakisaki house, Omi takes first a deep breath to calm herself. Her anger does not vanish entirely, of course, but at least now she can hear herself think. While waiting for a response from the intercom, she looks over at the patch of yard that she can see from the outside gate. Even Omi isn't normally one to complain about other people's housekeeping, but this is going too far. The grass is growing wild. There are piles of dead leaves scattered everywhere. It doesn't just look untended. It looks like an uninhabited ruin. It's still light out, but every window has its storm shutters tightly sealed. Omi guesses they've been closed since morning. What kind of life is Fuminori leading? Even if he's living alone, he can't neglect his housework forever. And is it just her imagination? Or does something stink like rotting meat? It couldn't be coming from the yard, could it? There's still no response, so she presses a buzzer a second time, and a third time. Finally, after this has gone on for over 10 minutes, Omi loses her patience and opens the cover of the intercom. As she expected, the power's been disconnected. Perhaps Fuminori has a good reason for shutting out the world, but Omi can only see it as a lack of respect for others. Her anger rekindled. She pushes the gate open and stomps through the yard to the front door. Imagine if, like, I'm about to make a prediction, right? What's actually going on is that the reason why Saya looks normal is because in reality, those are two visions that already exist in the world. And his vision was simply flip-flopped around. So basically, if everybody else looks normal, then Saya would look like a grotesque creature. If Saya looks normal, then everybody else is a grotesque creature. That's what's going on. So she's about to walk in this bitch, and she's about to see the scariest shit that she's ever seen in her life. Given the state of his intercom, she doubts that Fuminori will respond to a knock, so Omi decides to just open the door and go in shouting. If the door is locked, she'll just have to... Surprisingly, the doorknob turns easily in her hand, and the enraged Omi finds herself throwing the door open wider than she intended. Her nostrils are instantly assaulted by a choking stench. What is that smell? As Omi stands petrified on the threshold, the cowbell hanging on the inside of the door chimes loudly. A moment later, I knew it! Omi can't believe her ears. The voice she just heard could not have been human, yet its intonations were too complex for any animal she can imagine. Is someone here? She calls out from the end of the hallway from which the voice came. There's no response. Instead, she hears the sound of something soft and wet flopping its way deeper into the house. Finding it difficult to place a meaningful image to the voice she just heard, Omi stares blankly at the empty vestibule. There's nothing there, not even Fuminori's shoes, which can only mean he's still outside somewhere wearing them. The house should be empty. But then, what was that voice just now? Her anger has vanished, as if there was never anything there. Nevertheless, Omi sets foot into the hallway, leaving the door open and the cowbell won't ring. The floor creaks, setting her nerves on edge. Omi isn't sure why she's acting like a burglar, but something tells her to make as little noise as possible. The potency of the stink inside the house makes the whiff she caught outside pale in comparison. It's sickening, like rotten fish guts. Has food been left to spoil in the kitchen? She hears a bubbling sound up ahead. Stepping gingerly into the creaking floorboards, Omi makes her way to the end of the hallway. She finds rooms on both sides of her, one lit and the other dark. She chooses to look into the lit room. It's the kitchen, lit by what must be the only window in the house not covered by a storm shutter. The sound she heard was a pot boiling on the stove, and the chopping board next to it lie a butcher's knife and some half-diced carrots. A perfectly normal household scene, with the light of the setting sun making everything the color of decomposing fruit. Something is wrong. Who is cooking here and where did they go? Is anyone here? Omi calls, regretting it immediately as she realizes that her voice is shaking. As the words echo vainly through the silent house, she begins to feel foolish and defenseless. Suddenly, she feels something cold seeping through her pantyhose. She timidly reaches to touch her feet. Her fingertips come away, covered with a vicious olive green slime, like the filthy water from a tank long clogged with algae and dead fish. The whole floor is covered with it. Must be the source of the stench. Omi now wishes she had worn her shoes inside. Manners be damned. When she looks back ruefully the way she came, she realizes that her current position is not visible from the entrance. The kitchen must be where the strange voice came from. The next room is probably the den. As she expected from the closed storm shutters, it's pitch black inside. Omi wants nothing more than to flee this house, but that would mean turning her back to the darkness, and that she simply cannot bring herself to do. Moved by some irrational compulsion, Omi sets foot into the den. It's too dark to see anything, and the stink is far worse than before. She slides her hand along the wall, feeling for a light switch, finding it much sooner than she expected. She flips it on like it's her last hope. The colors. The colors. So many colors. The purple of entrails, the brown of rotting meat, the crimson of flesh, blood, yellow of fat. These colors, and more that cannot be described, cover every inch of the room in a maddening array. The colors say that all needs to be said about the painter's hatred, malice, and insanity. Omi's legs give out from the shock, sending her to the floor. Slime immediately soaks through her jeans, and its cold tendrils creeping up her legs, crotch, and her neck. Her hand flies to her neck where it's greeted by another drop of chilly slime. Above her, something is dripping on her head. Making perhaps the worst decision of her life, Omi looks up. The predator clinging to the ceiling, poised to leap upon its prey. She sees it in every detail. Her mouth and nose are sealed before she can scream, and her belly is torn apart as something enters to feast on her innards. But by the time she feels any of this, Omi has already gone mad. I bit the bullet and tried to take the train, but the rush hour crowds were so bad that I had to get off the highway and walk. Damn, so she died. What is Saya? Like, what, right? So she eats niggas. She eats niggas. That's why she wouldn't eat with us. She don't eat regular food. I'm trying to think. I wonder, how does Saya see everybody else? Does she see them as humans or monsters? And if she did see them as monsters, would she even be able to eat them? But even then, if she sees them as humans, that kind of... if she sees them as humans and she still eats them, that means that she's either a cannibal or she sees herself as a monster as well. So she already knows what she is. But if she saw humans as monsters, I mean, if she was a cannibal, then she would have ate us. So if she saw all the humans as monsters, as humans, and ate them, then she should have saw us as well. But maybe she sees us as a monster. The same way we see her as what we truly are, she sees us as what she truly is. That's why she saw us as a friend or somebody to talk to rather than food, if she is like someone who sees humans and eats them. We gotta find out. I bit the bullet and tried to take the train so bad I had to get off halfway to walk. I'm running pretty late. Is Saya worried? I hope she's not mad. When I entered the yard, I realized the front door had been left wide open. Light from the living room is seeping out into the hallway, and I hear what sounds like someone smacking their lips. There's also a tantalizing fragrance in the air. Is it Saya? I consider calling out to her, but decide to enter in silence instead. Something smells strange, though not unpleasant. The aroma is quite soothing, in fact. It reminds me of Saya's hair. At first, I'm surprised by what I see in the living room. The floor is covered in what looks to be some kind of grass, probably the source of the herb-like smell, and there are fruit or vegetable-like balls of varying size scattered everywhere.
Saya.
Saya turns around, her eyes wide with surprise. She then looks away sheepishly like a child caught at some prank. What are you eating? This is, well... She stammers, so flustered that I suddenly feel bad for sneaking up on her. Remembering that she's never eaten in front of me before, I realize that she must be quite embarrassed. Can I have one? I scoop up the closest fruit-like thing and pop it into my mouth, ignoring Saya's attempt to wave me off. It has a strange texture, soft and pliable, like a peach or a pear. When I bite into it with my back teeth, a succulent juice fills my mouth, combined with a sharp, strong fragrance. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted. How did you make this? What did you use? It wasn't hard. I just took it apart and melted it a little to make it easier to eat. It's practically raw. Oh. I pick up a different lump, this one consisting of fruity flesh around the hard core. Tearing a chunk of it into my mouth. I find it has a similar taste to the last one. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, even I can eat this. In fact, it's good. Really? At first, Saya looks dumbstruck, but then she bursts out laughing. So this is what you like. Now I feel so stupid for going to all that trouble. Is that what you always eat, Saya? Yeah. Though it's been a while since I've had one so big, I usually catch them at the nearby park. She be eating little niggas! There's an impressive nature preserve not too far from here. I've never heard about fruits like these growing there, but, well, of course. They only look like fruits to me. They're really something else. Sorry, I already ate the best parts. That's okay, there's always next time. Now we can eat together. Yeah. Saya seems really happy. I'm happy too, of course. Eating with someone is much more fun than eating alone. And it makes the food taste better too. There's still plenty left. It'll keep chilled for 2 or 3 days, though it won't taste as good. Then we'd better start putting it away. Sealing the small fruits in Tupperware and large ones in pots and bowls. Saya and I store the remaining food in the refrigerator. Thinking of tomorrow's dinner fills me with anticipation. That's fucked. I feel that little by little I'm starting to regain the joy of living. Saya will guide me. With her I can live on. Bro, the day this man comes to his senses and his cognition is fixed and all of that, and he realizes that he's been eating niggas, he might just kill himself. Doesn't eating human flesh like fuck with your stomach though? True Scary Stories Hospital Edition. Chapter 4, The Monster in the Hospital. A medical student relates his shocking experiences. Will you believe him or not? Strange things started happening at the hospital around the end of last spring. It began with patients waking up in the middle of the night screaming. They all spoke of a terrifying nightmare, and many of them had to be sedated. Some patients even transferred to other hospitals because of it. The weird thing was that they'd all had exactly the same dream. A dream about some horribly disgusting monster staring down at them from their bedside. But the really strange stuff started happening after that. There used to be a lot of stray cats around the campus, looking for scraps from the students. One day the cats suddenly disappeared, and it wasn't that they stopped coming, it was more like they'd vanished from the area entirely. And then people stopped walking their dogs around. According to rumors, their dogs were refusing to go anywhere near the school. Eventually, things started going missing in the hospital. Organs, to be precise. Transplant organs kept disappearing from storage. People came close to losing their jobs over it. And it wasn't just 2 or 3 times that it happened. They tried to keep it from the students, but we heard that it was a lot worse than that. People started saying that there was something living in the hospital. The janitors would find strange messes that could only be made in the middle of the night. Traces of something that had crawled down the hallway or weird stains caused by something dripping down through the ceiling. The late shift nurses talked about hearing strange noises on the same night that patients woke up screaming. There's one last story, one you can never mention inside the hospital. One day, the obstetrics department went crazy. They said a newborn had disappeared in the night. If that were true, the police would have come and it would have all been over the news. But they say the big shots managed to make it all go away. It's just a rumor, of course. These strange incidents suddenly stopped towards the end of summer. Now, there are almost no patients complaining of nightmares, and the cats have started coming back to campus. But still, what happened in the hospital that summer? Even now, just thinking about it gives me the creeps. That was Saya human eating ass. Nothing. This is the 3rd day in a row they haven't been able to get in touch with Omi. That bitch dead. There's no sign that she returned to her apartment, and even her family doesn't know anything. Her parents have already filed a missing persons report. Well, you know her. She'll probably just pop up somewhere like nothing happened. I hope so. Yo replies with a gloomy expression. She's worried about Omi, of course, but the incident with Fuminori 3 days ago must still be weighing on her as well. Yo hasn't seen Fuminori since then, and Fuminori hasn't made any effort to approach her or Koji. Four people used to meet in this cafeteria between classes, but now there are only 2. Hey Koji, let's keep thinking. Isn't there somewhere Omi might have gone? No. Koji answers evasively. I've already checked everywhere. It's a lie, of course. Koji knows where Omi planned to go that evening, but she doesn't want to bring Fuminori up in front of Yo. Their awkward silence is mercifully broken by the bell signaling the start of the next period. Well, I've got to go. Yeah. Unless Koji is mistaken, Yo is supposed to have class next period too, but she just sits there staring off into space. Unable to come up with anything to say, he leaves the cafeteria reluctantly. Both Omi's disappearance and Yo's depression worry Koji, and both problems lead back to the same exact place. What the hell is Fuminori doing? When Omi went missing, the first thing he did was question Fuminori. After all, the last time he'd seen her was just before she stormed off to give Fuminori a piece of her mind. Fuminori responded with unequivocal denial, and acted like he hadn't had the slightest idea why Omi would have gone to see him. Perhaps that was only natural, as he was unaware that Omi and Koji had witnessed him reduce Yo to tears. Did Omi even make it to Fuminori's house? She had been riding a wave of emotion when she'd left, and might have calmed down and changed her mind halfway there. Or perhaps she ran into trouble on the way. Koji concluded, or more accurately convinced himself, that one of these possibilities was the truth, subconsciously denying the one remaining possibility, that Fuminori was lying, that he had met Omi and was involved in her disappearance. When questioned by the police, Koji told the truth about Omi's destination only up until the train station, maintaining that he had no idea where she planned to go after that. He wanted to cooperate with the search, of course, but Omi couldn't have made it to Fuminori's house. Fuminori said so himself, didn't he? In that case, he told the police everything they needed to know. Not wanting to get the still fragile Fuminori involved, he forced himself to accept this flimsy logic. But the conflict is built up inside him without his notice, leaving unanswered suspicion to fester in his mind. Koji is deep in thought, paying no attention to his surroundings, but perhaps that is what allows him to catch sight of his friend's back through the crowd of milling students. Fuminori. At first, Koji assumes that he's headed home to the lecture hall, but it soon appears that he's instead going home. Strange. Medical students have required courses in the afternoon. Though he's initially surprised, Koji's hesitation lasts for only a second. He follows his friend, taking care to stay far enough behind that he won't be noticed. Fuminori wasn't going home. It became obvious when he boarded a train headed for the opposite direction. Koji's next guess was that he was going to see his doctor at the T University Hospital, but Fuminori rode straight through the closest station. Where is he going? At first, Koji felt ashamed for tailing his friend like this, but his conscience fell silent as Fuminori's actions grew more mysterious. The stranger it gets, the closer Koji feels to discovering the truth behind Fuminori's sudden transformation. Any knowledge would be welcome, no matter how slight. Even Koji is beginning to think that there must be more behind Fuminori's change than the accident alone. He wants a more satisfying answer, one that will help him decide whether Fuminori can still be trusted. Fuminori gets off at a small station in a nondescript suburb of Tokyo. Koji follows, trying not to lose sight of him amid the other disembarking passengers. The area is quite desolate, with only a small bookstore, a convenience store, and a market in front of the train station. It's easy for Koji to keep Fuminori in view. The neighborhood was carved out of Fuji foothills, and here and there remain steep inclines and wooded areas that escape assimilation. Koji is amazed that such a quiet place exists less than an hour out of central Tokyo. Fuminori seems to know these streets. He moves quickly and purposefully through the suburban community, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Before long, Fuminori reaches a house. Without ringing the bell or even knocking, he opens the door and vanishes inside, leaving Koji to wonder how Fuminori can treat the house as his own. After waiting to see if Fuminori comes back out, Koji approaches the gate and checks the nameplate. Ogai, it reads. Koji has never heard of anyone by that name among Fuminori's acquaintances. Next, his attention is drawn to the thick wad of leaflets sticking out of the mail slot. This, coupled with the general dilapidated feel of the place, suggests that it has been abandoned for some time. A small playground is 2 blocks away, provides an adequate vantage point from which to watch the front of Ogai home. Fortunately, it does not appear to be the sort of house that has a rear exit. Koji settles down on a bench near to begin his stakeout. I should have brought more smokes. 1 hour passes and then another, but there remains no sign of movement around the Yogai residence. Soon twilight settles upon the neighborhood. After Koji's 1 pack of cigarettes runs out, the snakeout becomes a battle against mounting impatience. He kills time by redialing Omi on his cell and sending her a short text message, but his efforts are futile, as he knew they would be. When the sky begins to turn a deep blue and the streetlights come on, Fuminori finally emerges from the house and heads back towards the station with the same hurried stride. After some brief consideration, Koji decides that right now, investigating the house is more important than tailing Fuminori. He rings the doorbell just to make sure. After receiving the expected silence and respond, he checks to make sure no one is watching and turns the doorknob. The door is not locked. The moment he enters the house, stale air thick with mold and dust fills Koji's nostrils. It is the unmistakable smell of a house that has been long lain untouched. There's also a faint hint of something else in the air, something reminiscent of damp sewers and fetid cisterns. Flipping the light switch does nothing. The power must be cut off. Koji uses a cigarette lighter to illuminate the immediate area. In the thick dust covering the floor, he sees several brand new trails of footprints that could only have been made by shoes, Fuminori's. Koji decides to follow suit and dispense with courtesy. He enters with his shoes on. The lighter's flickering flame pushes back the deathly silence and gloom of the house. Koji is surprised to see evidence of life remaining. Everything from furniture to tableware and appliances, nothing seems to be missing. The thickness of the dust suggests that the house has been empty for several months, which means that the owner must have left with a little more than the clothes on his back. Left with little more than the clothes on his back. Could he have gone on a long vacation? The calendar in the den is still turned to April, empty and silent, yet still exhibiting signs of life that was once lived there. The house reminds Koji of a passenger ship entombed at the bottom of the sea. In a graveyard-like quiet and sinister thought suddenly enters his mind. No one is living here. That does not mean that the owner left. Maybe he was murdered, as his rotting corpse is right under Koji's feet. He finds himself wanting a stronger light. A flashlight in his hands would make him feel much better. Koji follows Fuminori's footsteps to the second floor, where he begins to catch the scent of paper and stale air. There's the smell of old books, instantly recognizable to anyone who has worked in an antique bookstore or library. The first room on the second floor turns out to be a study. Its towering shelves packed with a vast number of books that Koji fears for the stability of the floor. As a medical student himself, he's able to discern at a glance that this study belongs to a medical professional, and a high-level one at that. Judging by the content of the books, a smorgasbord of technical volumes far beyond the simple student's understanding. The owner's interests lie more with the medical research than with the clinical practice. Fuminori must have spent most of his time here. The scattered dust suggested he was searching for something, and the contents of the desk drawers are in obvious disarray. A small pile of books stacked on the side table catches his eye. Being next to the desk, they must have been the most frequently read. Their nature could shed some light on the character of the person who worked here. Koji frowns as he examines the 3 books. These aren't scientific texts like the rest, but old leather-bound Western tomes, like the sort you would find in a rare bookstore. The titles are meaningless to him. Trait des chiffres appears to concern semiotics, but ars magna et ultima is some kind of treatise on divination. And then there's the Voynich manuscript, which looks like some sort of picture book. When he pages through it, he finds a text utterly incomprehensible. Maybe it was some kind of cipher. Whatever they are, they clearly have nothing to do with medicine, refuting Koji's earlier guess that this old guy was a doctor. Looking down, Koji suddenly notices a glint of something black and metallic underneath the chair. A pocket-sized flashlight. Quite out of place among all these dusty books. Fuminori must have brought it in. With relief, Koji exchanges his lighter for the flashlight. His tiny body emits a powerful white beam that casts away the darkness. His courage restored, he decides to explore the rest of the house. Koji notices something strange. Something that was not visible in the lighter's weak flame. The slime. Dark, oily stains are everywhere. The stains are especially thick around the doorknobs and stair banisters, like someone grasped them with hands wrapped in greasy cloth. Looking closer, he sees places where slime was splashed low on the walls, as if a wet mop was run violently across the floor. Could old guy have made these marks? If so, how? Koji begins to feel sick as he imagines a man shambling through the house with slime dripping from his body. Finding the bedroom next to the study, Koji checks the closet on a hunch. He discovers 2 empty suitcases, not what one would leave behind when going on a long vacation. A sudden chill runs through him. Whoever was living here is still somewhere inside the house. Suppressing the urge to flee, Koji goes back downstairs to check the first floor. If he finds a corpse, he'll have to call the police right away. He might fuck. Backlog. As B. Hunch. Pressing the urge to flee, goes back downstairs to check the first floor. If he finds a corpse, he'll have to call the police right away. He might get away with trespassing if he reports it first. But if they find the body later, it'll be awfully hard to explain his fingerprints all over the house. The flashlight reveals the den to be covered in even more slime than the rest of the house. The sofa looks as though it was dredged from the bottom of a swamp. In the kitchen, Koji takes one look at the sink and decides not to get any closer. He doesn't want any more fuel for his imagination. He reaches the door to the bathroom. A common scene from TV dramas flashes in his head. A body with slit wrists floating in the bathtub full of water. And wasn't there a movie where a hitman disposes of his victims in a bathtub full of lye? Koji braces himself for the worst and opens the door slowly, then shines his light in the ceramic bathtub that appears from the darkness like a white ghost. Bones. A mountain of bones, black and dry flesh and blood. Black with dry flesh and blood. Koji puts one hand against the wall to steady himself as his legs threaten to buckle. Something is wrong. He realizes as he tries desperately to get his thoughts in order. The bones are too small and there are too many of them. They aren't human. After taking several deep breaths to calm himself, Koji enters the bathroom and examines the tub. The bones are piled atop each other like fallen leaves. They appear to be from small animals, perhaps cats or dogs. Even so, the quantity is mind-boggling. How many bodies would it take to produce this many bones? The bones have all been separated from one another, so it doesn't look like bodies were just thrown into the tubs and left to rot. Each bone is covered with deep grooves, marks left by the teeth biting through flesh. Koji's sanity won't let him consider the possibility that a human could have done this. The owner of this house must have kept some kind of carnivorous animal as a pet, giving it the bones of small animals to eat, disposing of the remains in the bathtub. Why not dispose of the leftovers properly? They could have been thrown out in the garbage, or was there something keeping him from leaving the house? The relief Koji felt when he realized that the bones weren't human is once again under attack. In the first place, what the fuck was Fuminori doing here?
どうした、コウジ。
What's wrong, Koji? Koji whirls around, his light revealing Fuminori's expressionless
不法
face.
侵入だぞ。
You're trespassing.
お前だって同じだろ。
So are you, Koji replies, barely managing to speak over the pounding of his heart. Fuminori pushes past Koji and looks in the bathtub. He doesn't even flinch at the sight of the
僕は
bones.
この家の人と知り合いなんだ。
A friend of mine lives here, so I'm just running an errand.
知り合いって
What? Who is this person? Where did you meet them?
何者なんだ。
Koji doesn't want to believe that the old, friendly Fuminori could have had contact with the denizens of this house. It's just glitched, so I'm gonna read that again. Koji doesn't want to believe that the old friendly Fuminori could have had contact with the denizens of this house. I'll introduce you one of these days. He says, turning to leave without even a glance at Koji. I owe her my life. Koji runs after Fuminori, his heart finally beating normally again. Wait, is this friend of yours the reason you've been acting so strange? Standing in the entrance, Fuminori glares coldly at Koji over his shoulder. The utter lack of emotion in his eyes gives Koji pause. You followed me, didn't you? Koji swallows. What can he say? It's starting to bother me, Koji. Don't do it again. Fine. Fuminori walks away without another word, leaving Koji alone in the entrance. Up until this very moment, concern for his friend was still at the forefront of his mind. Now, however, that concern is swiftly giving way to a growing sense of dread. As the Fuminori he knew no longer exists, was the person who just stared Koji down, an imposter wearing Fuminori's skin. Koji had begun to believe that it might be so. What a nuisance. Why does he insist on interfering? If he only spoke with me to exchange pleasantries, even I could bear it. But now he's sticking his nose into my business to satisfy his curiosity. Koji is a perfect example of someone who thinks that it's always good to take an interest in other people's affairs. He probably thinks that he's doing me a favor by prying into my life. He couldn't be more wrong. If he keeps this up, I might have to find some way to deal with him. Like Saya said, I have to keep my search for Dr. Ogai a secret. Koji could ruin everything. I didn't have time to fully investigate the Ogai residence today. At this rate, it'll probably take several days to go through the study. So I didn't believe that I'd find anything to help with the search, but I think there's still a lot to explore. Who knows what I'll discover? The problem is Koji. He knows about the house now. Will he make things difficult? Excuse me. Excuse me. A hair-raising voice calls as I'm about to pass through my gate. Suppressing a shudder, I put on a fake smile and turn to face the writhing mass of rotten flesh that's staring at me with bulging eyes. Good evening, are you just getting home? Yes, I am. Ah, of course. This is my next door neighbor, Suzumi, a middle-aged painter, I think, who spends all day at home while his wife works. I haven't had much contact with him since the accident. Why was he suddenly talking to me now? Have you gotten used to living alone? Yes, thank you for your help. I know it must be very difficult, but you're still young. You have to try to move on with your life. Yeah. What is this? Did he stop me just to deliver a lecture? With such a big house, it must be difficult to take care of everything by yourself. Yes, I suppose it is rather difficult. Why not hire a caretaker? Didn't your father have one? I'm still a student. I can't really afford the expense. I see. The flesh beats undulates foully, as though it still has something to say. The sight of it is driving me close to the edge. Even so, don't you think you should at least tend to your yard? I'd be happy to help. No, thank you. I'll manage on my own. Now I get it. He's worried that the unsightliness of my house might diminish the image of his own. Damn snob. He's just thinking of everything in like a negative way. But it's like, it's hard to really blame him because in his situation, how can you think positively? I gotta take a piss, I'll be back. I flash a token smile and retreat behind the safety of my gate. I can feel Suzumi's eyes boring in my back all the way to the front door. Why won't everyone just stay out of my life? I just want to live together with Saya, alone where no one will ever bother us. Suzumi Yosuke sighs in annoyance as he watches the neighbor boy retreat into his house. What's with his attitude? Even while talking, he kept his eyes averted as if looking at something repulsive. Has he always been such an unpleasant young man? No, of course not. When his parents were still alive, he'd have been a normal youth, a little shy but sensitive and caring. It must be the stress from this sad situation. If it continues to build, he might start to develop serious mental problems. Or is it too late already? Yosuke wonders as he gazes warily at Sasaki-saka yard. Even during dinner, Yosuke can't shake the neighboring house from his mind.
どうしたのあなた
What's wrong, honey? You look like something's bothering you.
うん
Yeah,
今日ね
I saw the young man from next door today.
あったよ
お隣の
Fuminori?
あ
I just had to say something about his yard.
そうよね
I know. I wish he'd at least do something about that
貸
smell.
してもらいたいわよね
The stink coming from the Saki-saki house grows worse every day, and the Suzumi family is at its wits
あ
end.
の草むらの中
Could there be a dead cat in his bushes? He must notice a smell coming from his own yard.
まさかとは思うが
Maybe he's leaving his garbage out there.
そのまま庭に
He wouldn't. No, I wouldn't put him past it. I wouldn't put it past him. Who knows what he's doing in there all day with his storm shutters closed? What kind of life is he leading?
お兄ちゃん
Did he go crazy?
これヒロミ
Now, Hiromi, you mustn't say things like that.
いや
Honestly, with the way things are going, I'm starting to wonder if he's gone paranoid or something.
大丈夫なの
Will he be alright?
早く時間
Unless he gets help soon, who knows?
なんともな
The seconds crawled by, each tick of the clock compounding my agony. When I returned to the Ogai residence, I was greeted by a silent, empty home. Saya had vanished without leaving any clue as to her whereabouts. It isn't rare for her to go out for walks at night. I've often gone with her. However, such outings would take place in the middle of the night when no one is around, and never last for more than 2 hours. Right now it's 5 in the morning. Soon the sky will begin to show its first light of dawn. Even if she left right before I returned, she's still been gone for almost half a day. I can't sleep. I can only wait in anguish. I tried to distract myself by painting more rooms, but I can't concentrate on the work. If I had known this would happen, I would have left the Ogai house sooner. I wish I hadn't wasted time on Koji. If Saya doesn't return, the thought makes me want to tear out my hair. After his long absence, the terror of true loneliness is too much to bear. At last the cowbell chimes, and Saya's long-awaited "I'm home" rings out from the bottom of the stairs. As I jumped out of my bed in relief, all the stress that has built up through the night is released in a wave that threatens to sweep me off my feet.
疲れた
Ah, I'm so tired.
すると
Saya sighs as she climbs the stairs. I knew the trip would be hard.
さや
Saya, where have
ど
you?
こに
My question trails off if I notice the thick bundles of paper that she's carrying under her arm.
それは
What are those?
文則のカルテ
Your medical charts and surgery records. I went back to the hospital today.
古巣の病院に行ってきたの
Saya drops her bundles on the floor, sending paper flying everywhere. Then pulls her favorite cushion over and collapses into it, stretching luxuriously.
こんな夜中に
You walked all the way back from the hospital in the middle of the night?
ごめんね
Sorry,
本当はもっと
she says, skillfully gathering the scattered papers together.
したらキリが
I meant to come back sooner, but there were so many files to go through.
結局
So I decided to just bring everything. It was so heavy.
ああ重かった
Maybe it's just the exhaustion, but I'm not understanding a word Saya is saying.
だから
What are you planning to do with all this?
どうするつもりなんだ
どうするって
What do you mean?
もちろん
I'm gonna
調べ
study it, of course.
うちで時
She
間
replies, holding one MRI photograph after another up to the light. I'll have plenty of time to go over it here.
え
At first, I think she's just playing around, but the occasional mutters of,
何や
better check this one. Oh, I see. Well, that was silly of them. And the like as she separates photos into a growing pile beside her makes me think this might not be a joke after all.
君わかるのか
Do you understand this stuff?
パパにいろいろ
I learned a lot from Dad. She flashes me a grin, then returns to the papers.
なるほどね
So that's how it
こ
is.
れじゃあいつまで
No wonder it can't be fixed.
直せない
It can't.
人間の
Not by a human doctor. I can't tell if she's being serious.
私でも
Even for me, it'll probably be tough, she says offhandedly, even as her hands continue to shuffle papers. I have to experiment first. Watching more closely, I realized that her eyes are scanning each page rapidly, so rapidly. In fact, I was unable to notice it at first. Could Saya actually be reading my charts?
なあさや
Hey Saya. Yeah? She answers coolly, looking up from the charts.
今日はもう疲れたし
I'm tired. Let's go to
寝
bed.
ないか
Fuminori が
Sure.
そうしたいなら最
Saya
悪
replies with a grin. If that's what you want. Saya tosses aside the paper she was sorting, then leaps on me and begins to tear off my clothes.
おい
Hey,
ねえ寝る
come
前
on, just once more before bed, okay?
さや
Don't you think it's unhealthy to be doing this every day?
何と
Are you sick?
いや
No, not me.
別に
My body's all grown up, but sure.
体に
平気だよ
Don't worry. She laughs playfully as she pushes me onto the bed. Familiar sweet sensation of her weight and skin rendering me
平
helpless.
気なわけないだろ
But I'm worried, we haven't used any contraception.
ふみのりはさ
Fuminori,
さやに子供を産ませる
she whispers, staring straight into my eyes. You don't want me to have your children? How the fuck can I respond to that?
いやも何も
It's not that.
さやに
Your body is too small. Pregnancy is a serious burden, you know?
こうだ
That's not really something you have to worry
して
about.
ることって
Saya seems unsure how to reply, but not because she doesn't understand what I said. Rather, the bemused look on her face makes it seem as though I'm the one not getting it. She's just really short. Yeah, she's just really short, you know? She's petite. I've seen people like this in real life, you know? Like, I've met people like this in real life. They're adults, but, you know, they're just short, petite. I mean, come on. I'm not that tall, but my grandma, her face is to my chest. And she doesn't have that old people like this, you feel me? Like, some people are just short, you know? Like, it's like, it's not, you know, for my own sanity, I'm just going to assume that's the case.
でも
Because anything else, I think it pissed me off.
大事に思って
Well, not piss me off, but it would make me very uncomfortable. So for my own comfort, I'm going to assume that she is a very short adult. But I know you're just thinking of me, she says suddenly, her eyes glowing with innocence. So I'm happy. By the time I break the spell of her angelic smile, Saya has undone my belt and is removing my pants. Who the fuck is blowing up my phone? Come on, Saya. Look. Come on, Saya. Let's stop. Relax, she says teasingly.
ふみのりがし
Tonight I'll do it for you so you don't have to relax. What the fuck is going on? As she finishes, she looks up at me, smiling like she just pulled the greatest prank of her
そ
life.
れだったらふみのりだ
See, you don't have to worry if I do it like this. Oh, well, what the fuck do I say to that?
ね
Hey, was it bad? It didn't feel good?
えこういうのだと
Hearing a sudden nervousness in Saya's voice, I hastily stammer.
そんなこと
Of course it felt good.
さや
But Saya, you didn't have to do that.
そ
But I
れ
wanted.
あれはさやにちょうだい
She's distraught. She clings to me like a child who just had her candy stolen. But she's not a child. She's not a child. Come on. Right? She's not a child. I'll have to confirm after I finish. Reading. But she's definitely not a child. Come on. Because if she was a child, like, they wouldn't be doing this. Like, they wouldn't be showing me this shit if she was a child, right? So she can't be a child.
ふみのりの
I want you inside me. Fuck up!
中に
Inside you. So Saya really does want to bear my child. Strange as. I'm not adverse to the idea, but I still think it might be too early, of course. That there isn't any point in worrying about my reputation now, assuming that Saya and I will be alone. I even welcome it. Your reputation in having a child too early, at such a young age. Yeah.
ふみのりは
You don't like it? She gazes up at me pleadingly. How can I resist?
なんかじゃ
I do like it. As long as you're okay with it, so am I.
僕だって
Saya smiles with relief and burrows contentedly into my
ふみ
chest.
のり大好き
I love you, Fuminori. She purrs softly. With her body draped over mine, I become even more aware of how light and delicate she is. Can this tiny girl and I really live as husband and wife? I feel a pang of self-loathing at the question. How can I still be afraid after all that's happened? Saya's feelings are so earnest, how can I not accept them? I need to resolve once and for all to rid myself of the useless trappings of morality. Saya and I are all that matters. There's no point in worrying about what others think anymore. Although I suppose I should still talk to Saya's guardian, of course. I need to find Dr. Ogai as soon as possible. She has a guardian. Fuck. She's mentally unstable. She has a mental illness, right? So she even as an adult, she needs a guardian to watch over her and keep her in check, because she has a mental illness and she can't function that well by herself. So even as an adult, she needs a fuck. This shit is weird. I'm glad they're not actually showing anything, because that would just be the final straw. Like, I'd have to do like that. By the time I drift asleep in exhaustion and his comforting embrace, all doubts about Saya's action have suddenly vanished from my mind. Whatever the case, all that matters is that she's returned to me. Two o'clock for Suzumi Yosuke. This is the most fulfilling time of the day. After seeing his wife and daughter off, taking care of the morning chores and eating a leisurely lunch, it's finally time to sit down in his easel. He's not a particularly popular painter, and he would only hold an exhibition if he were hunting for her. He would only hold an exhibition if he were hurting for money. However, the design work he does on his side ensures that there's always enough to support his lifestyle. Alongside the salary his wife earns working for a magazine, they're able to pay their mortgage, send their daughter to school, and still have plenty left over. Yosuke's life is perfect, leisurely and absolute of want. He loves his house, considering it a symbol of his success. When he mows the lawn, polishes the windows, the floors, cleans the kitchen, toilets, and bath, he feels the same joy as he does when washing his own body. Just as he knows the length of his fingernails and the time since his last meal, he also knows everything about his home's condition, the status of every door, the freshness of every flower, the amount of ice in the ice tray, every last detail. This is his pride. And when he sits in his studio, smelling the turpentine, he knows that each element of his house is in perfect order, and he feels the ultimate satisfaction. That's OCD at levels that I cannot comprehend. While trying to find the right combination of paints on his palette, he suddenly feels thirsty, but remembers there isn't much orange juice left in the refrigerator. In fact, it's about time to stock up on bath additive and powdered soap. He could get everything at the supermarket when he goes to shop for dinner, but it'll probably be quite heavy. Now then, where should I leave off to go shopping? As he ponders this dilemma, he heads downstairs to the kitchen. Just then, a breath of air trickles the back of his neck, bringing him to a halt in the middle of the hallway. A breeze, impossible. Every window in the house is closed. Yosuke shuts them himself during the morning cleaning. Damn, Saya done broke in. She looking for her next snack. Yosuke enters the living room, searching for the source of the breeze. Something stinks. It's the same pungent smell of fetid swampland that emanates from the Sakisaka house. The window facing the yard next door is open, the curtains billowing loosely in the gentle breeze. There's a hole in the glass next to the lock. It looks strange, like it was melted by some chemical instead of broken. Someone must have reached through the hole to unlock the window. Yosuke stands paralyzed, his heart pounding with anger and fear. He listens carefully but hears nothing. Perhaps the intruder has already finished his business and left. But a burglar wouldn't have left the room untouched, would he? Maybe he heard Yosuke coming and hid somewhere nearby. Yosuke realizes that his still wet palette knife is in his right hand. He must have forgotten to put it aside before going downstairs. He stares numbly at the knife for a moment, then decides it's not enough protection. Instead, he grabs the ashtray sitting atop the table, made of thick, solid glass. It's big and heavy enough to serve as a weapon. The home that he thought of as part of himself now seems utterly alien. Keenly aware of the thumping in his heart, Yosuke looks around the living room and sees little of what could be used as a hiding place. The intruder must have either gone to the guest room or through the dining room to the kitchen. The kitchen is close to the stairs. If there had been movement, Yosuke would have noticed when he came down, which means that the guest room is the most likely place. He shuffles over to the guest room door and prepares to slide it open. But what is that stench? Could the breeze alone carry something so foul? It's as if the odor is coming from inside the room. He raises his ashtray and throws open the door. The straw-matted Japanese-style room is empty. There's a closet, but no one could fit in there. So the intruder already left. Yosuke relaxes, the exhaustion of sudden relief coming over him. And that is when something seizes his ankle. The instant he freezes in shock, his leg is yanked out from under him, sending him crashing into the floor. Stars explode behind his eyes as his head smacks against the door rail. The hand, if it can even be called that, wrapped around Yosuke's ankle, extends all the way back to beneath the living room sofa. There are barely 5 centimeters between the sofa and the floor. Whatever is hiding there, it can't possibly be human. Before the screaming, Yosuke can regain his footing. Countless hand-like appendages seize his arms and legs, rendering him helpless. Calm down, don't be scared. As the hideous voice burbles in his ear, something cold and soft crawls atop him. Yosuke can't even scream, his terror is so great. It won't hurt, don't be scared, it won't hurt. Thin tube-like appendages penetrate his ears and nose, wriggling deep into his skull. Right before the sensation drives him mad, Yosuke loses consciousness. Thank you for taking the time to see us, Koji says, his humble bow concealing his presence at the doctor's youth. Concealing his surprise at the doctor's youth. Even without her light makeup, she wouldn't look a day over 30. She must be quite talented to be a leading neurosurgeon at such a young age. Don't mention it. I was hoping somebody like you would come along. Her friendly smile was none of the coldness one might expect from her sharp, refined beauty. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Dr. Tanbo, Sakisaka Fuminori's attending physician. I'm Fuminori's friend, Tono Koji. This is Subuka Yo. Yo gives a quick bow, her expression apologetic. When they arrived at the T University Medical Center and asked to see Fuminori's doctor, Koji and Yo had been prepared for rejection. They hadn't expected the ease at which their request was granted. You say you want to know what's wrong with them? Well, so do I. I'm sorry. He didn't come in for his checkup 2 days ago. I tried calling his phone, but there was no answer. 2 days ago, the same day Fuminori was searching the abandoned house. Koji frowns, wondering what was important enough for him to blow off his appointment. What is he like at school? He's totally messed up. Seeing Yo's shoulders jerk out of the corner of his eye, Koji regrets not choosing his words more carefully. Since the accident, he's been like a completely different person. We have no idea what to do, so we thought that talking to you might help. Are you medical students too? She asked out of nowhere. Well, yes. Would you like to see his chart? You'd really show it to us. Koji replies incredulously. Dr. Tombo regards him silently for a moment and says, someone wanted to see it, and without the hospital's permission. His files were stolen from the archives 2 nights ago. What? She stares hard at the astonished students, then shakes her head with a tired smile. Well, it doesn't look like you two are involved. That's a relief. Of course we aren't. However, the culprit must have had an interest in his condition, or wanted to erase his records. Either way, I can only assume it was someone close to him. I see. An ominous thought flashes through Koji's mind. It couldn't have been Fuminori himself, could it? Koji looks at Dr. Tombo and finds her staring right back at him, her expression grave. He realizes that she must be harboring the same suspicion. What do you think? Do you have any idea who might have done it? Perhaps Dr. Tombo didn't have anyone in mind when she asked, but Koji's thoughts immediately fly to that eerie house in which Fuminori led him. I don't really know what their relationship is, but there's someone called Ogai, probably a doctor or a... Koji stops speaking as he sees the dramatic change that has come across Dr. Tombo's expression.
ご存知なんですか？
You know Dr. Ogai?
崎坂君がその男と
Do you know when and where Fuminori met that man?
いえ、
No, that's what I'd like to know. Just who is this Ogai?
一体何者なんですか？
After remaining silent for some time, Dr. Tombo loses a heavy sigh.
いいわその気に
Alright, it's not like you couldn't find out on your own. Ogai Masahiko was a doctor teaching at this hospital. He was dismissed over 6 months ago, however, following certain incidents.
不祥事って。
What incidents? What did he do? I can't say anymore. And anyway, it has nothing to do with your friend. Koji has no argument with which to answer Dr. Tombo's flat rejection. However, he can't shake the feeling that this Ogai person is the key to unraveling the mystery surrounding the Fuminori. Yes, okay.
先生、
Doctor,
もしかしたら
he says, making up his mind. Fuminori might be involved in a crime. At this sudden declaration, both Yo and Dr. Tombo raise their eyebrows. What do you mean?
彼を訪ねていった
A friend of ours went missing after going to see him. Fuminori denies any involvement, of course.
それって
You mean Omi?
大見ちゃんのこと？
Koji is unable to bear the shock in Yo's voice. Sorry, Subuka. I couldn't tell you.
君には言えなかった。
Dr. Tombo is frowning. Her expression is even more serious than
そ
before.
のオーガイという
Right now, this old guy seems to be the center of Fuminori's attention.
彼が何者で、
If we know who he is and what Fuminori's looking for, we might start to see the whole picture.
少しは事情がお願いです先生。
Please tell us,
教えて
doctor.
ください。
Just what happened at this hospital?
病院で
Dr. Tombo hesitates for some time, refusing to make eye contact, but she finally shakes her head. I'm sorry. This is not a decision I can make on my own.
先生、
Doctor, give me some time. I'll do my own investigating now that I know how far this has gone.
お願いします。
Please. Koji is out of options. All that's left is to trust this young doctor. It's frustrating, but a friend's rights only go so far. Let's exchange cell phone numbers. I'll call you if I learn anything, and you call me the moment anything changes. Alright.
わかりました。
What the? What happened to me? Yosuke's awareness returns slowly, as though rising from a bog. He's cold, no hot. Something itches, like tepid tongues and cold slugs crawling all over his skin. What the hell is going on? Timidly, he opens his eyes. What? It's everywhere. The thing that attacked him in the living room, it's everywhere. Terror shatters Yosuke's sanity. He throws off the thing lying atop him, but his wild flailing sends him crashing into the floor. But is it really the floor? The long wriggling fibers of what should be the carpet are winding themselves around his finger. The floor is made of worms. He tears his limbs free of the worms and tries to stand, but loses his balance and tumbles to the floor again. The worms immediately swarm over his body. Where am I? Where did that thing take me? Yosuke crawls across the worm-ridden floor toward the only exit from the pulsating room. Did she turn him into one of her? When he gets outside, however, all he can see is blood, bile, and rotten meat. There's no place to run. What is this? The most terrifying of all. This hellish place has the same layout as Yosuke's house. In a half-mad daze, he wanders through the nightmarish mockery of his home. In the small room where his studio should be, he finds an easel made of bones displaying a blood-soaked canvas. Like some cruel joke, everything is exactly where it would be in Yosuke's studio. Damn it! Let me out! Let me out of here! Howling, Yosuke lashes out against everything within reach. The easel of bones shatters, driving splinters into his fist. He feels the pain but does not wake up from the nightmare. If this isn't a dream, then what is? When his strength gives out, Yosuke falls to his knees, sobbing. For the first time in his life, he prays. The sound of the door opening and closing grates on his ears. Downstairs! The front door. Is someone else here? We're home! Yosuke trembles at the blood-curdling sound. It's that thing again. The monster has returned. Daddy, we're home! Where's dinner? Oh, he's not here. Did he go shopping? When can we eat? Yosuke hears a sound of something slimy sloshing his way up the stairs. Even as he cowers in fear, he slides his trembling hand across the floor and grabs one of the bones from the broken easel. The tip of the bone is nice and sharp. If he holds it in both hands and puts his weight behind it, he might be able to use it to defend himself. Honey, are you home? The monster's growls are getting closer. Holding his breath, Yosuke presses his back against the wall next to the door. The pounding of his heart is like thunder in his ears, so loud that he fears the creature might hear it. He knows that it will eat him if it finds him again, but it's all it can do to keep from crying. At last, the door creaks open. Honey! Yosuke leaps on the creature as it enters, fear turning his roar into a high-pitched scream. The flesh beast is covered in sludge and vile juices, but before horror can paralyze him, Yosuke brings his bone stake stabbing down. Yosuke screams as the stake pierces its chest and punches through the other side. It falls back, writhing in agony. The sight of his pain sets Yosuke's blood on fire. I can win! I can kill it! If I finish it up before it enters my head again, I'm safe! Yosuke grabs the bone and twists with all its might. The monster convulses and gurgles. Its trembling tentacle reaches up as though begging for help. Yosuke knocks it to the floor, then brings his heel crashing down on its flopping body again and again. With each stomp, its groans and spasms grow weaker. When the monster last stops twitching, Yosuke, panting hard, tears a stake from its corpse and rises to his feet. Daddy! Something squeals. Yosuke turns around to see another, smaller monster peeking out at him from the stair landing. That is fucked. There's still one left. His desperate, rage-filled attack both exhilarated him and gave him a taste for violence. This one will be easier. It's smaller and weaker. Grinning maniacally, Yosuke raises his stake and moves toward the second creature. The monster flees, screaming down the stairs. Not about to let his prey escape, Yosuke roars and gives chase. The thought of killing the monsters might end his nightmare. The thought of killing the monsters might end this nightmare feeds his savage bloodlust. No, Daddy, no! When the monster trips and falls in the dining room, Yosuke leaps on top of it and brings the stake crashing down. His bloodlust unsated, he pulls it free, then drives it again into the monster's flesh. Once, twice, 3 times and more, till there's nothing but shredded, pulverized meat. Eventually, the only sound in the house was Yosuke's heavy breathing. He has slain 2 monsters, but the nightmare shows no sign of ending. Yosuke staggers to the front door and goes outside. The sky, the city, everything has gone mad. Twisted shapes, nauseating colors, stinking air. There is no escape, no end to the nightmare. The last remnant of Yosuke's sanity vanishes like dust in the wind. Hi, mister. Yosuke turns to the sound of a girl's voice. She's standing in front of the house next door, wearing a spotless one-piece over her pure white skin. In the midst of this filth-ridden world, she alone glows with beauty. How do I look to you, mister? You're very cute. Yosuke feels a sudden black lust rise within him. Really? Then the experiment might be a success. Yosuke walks up to the strangely jubilant girl and brushes his hand against her long, smooth hair. Such a lovely girl. You must be the only one in the whole world. Mister. She looks up at the man towering over her, perhaps disturbed by his hungry stare. How about we play a game, girl? Okay, but what are we going to do? A grin parts Yosuke's lips as he replies. Everything that will please me, of course. With that, he grabs the girl's collar and tears the front of her dress wide open. Shock and fear twist the lovely girl's delicate features, stimulating Yosuke's sadism. Even after killing those two monsters, the embers of violence still smolder in his heart, and they now have a new fuel to burn. Oh, I like that expression on you. Won't you show me an even prettier one? The terrified girl flees into the Sakisaka house. Yosuke runs after her, feeling the joy of the hunt. Stay away! Even in desperation, she has no hope of outrunning his longer stride. Yosuke charges down the hallway and catches up to her in no time. He grabs her from behind and wrestles her to the floor before she can resist. Let me go! Why are you doing this? Like I said, because you're too cute! Enjoying the sensation of her in thin arms, struggling futilely against his grip, Yosuke uses his weight to hold her down while ripping off her remaining scraps of clothing. I don't want this, stop! Bro, somebody! Yosuke stares at the smooth, perfect body of the girl flopping beneath him. The thought of violating such an immaculate creature amid the horrors of this twisted world is irresistibly erotic. Yosuke runs his tongue over her stomach and chest as though preparing to eat her whole. She stiffens and whimpers at the sensation. It isn't supposed to be this way. Her tear-choked voice satisfies Yosuke's lust for conquest. The nightmare has violated him, but now he's about to visit the same torment of this innocent girl. Where he was the victim, he is now the victimizer. The release he feels is intoxicating. Fuck. No, stop, I'm scared. Fuminori! I haven't done anything yet. Putting his mouth closer to the sobbing girl's ear, Yosuke whispers, if you're this scared already, how will you scream when I put it in you? Fuck! Stop. Help me, Fuminori! I hate this shit! As always, the sight of the city grate on my nerves. Today, however, I don't feel as much hatred as I usually do. I've grown more accustomed to my condition, but that is not the reason for my high spirits. My search of the old guy house has finally borne fruit. When I pulled all the drawers out of the desk in his study, I found an envelope stuck between the desk and the wall. It must have fallen off the back of the writing tray. Inside were 3 outdoor photographs. I couldn't recognize the scenery due to my condition, but I'm pretty sure they show 3 buildings. Scrawled on the back of each photo was an address: Nagano Prefecture M Village, Tochigi Prefecture S Town, Shizuoka Prefecture H Town. None of the names is familiar, so they must be way out of the countryside. The photos are all dated more than 10 years ago. I don't know why they were taken or what they mean. Maybe Sai will be able to make some sense of them. In any case, this is something that even Saya missed when she was living in that house. Wonder how she'll react when I show her what I found. Saya, I want to see her so badly. The thought of her waiting for me speeds my footsteps. When I step through the gate, I see the front door is wide open again. This is the second time this has happened. Upon entering the house this time, however, the sound of Saya crying chills my blood. It is not just her. I hear a low, wet grunting. There's no time to take off my shoes. I race down the hallway, propelled by a terrifying premonition. I don't want to see this shit! A monster is at my house and it's attacking Saya. The filth oozing from its body spreads across her skin as it moves with animal ferocity. She looks at me with tear-filled eyes and calls my name in a weak, breathless voice. Rage erupts inside me like black lava. The monster stops gorging itself on Saya's body and turns its head to look at me. Surprised by my own composure, I slip past it and grab the meat cleaver sitting next to the sink. Without a moment's hesitation, I slash at the monster's face. It screams and staggers away from Saya, My attack must have blinded it because it flails its tentacles wildly as it tries to drive me away. My bloodlust still unsated, I calmly seize one of the appendages and plunge my weapon twice more into its quivering flesh. The blade enters its body with fascinating ease. Each strike sprays my face with its blood. As I carve the monster to pieces and savor its hideous screams, my mind is finally consumed by rage. No mercy. I'll see this monster suffer for what he's done to Maya, to Saya. I give myself to the fury, howling at the top of my lungs as I slash and slash and slash and slash. Even after the flesh beast stopped moving, I keep slashing until I realize that it can no longer feel pain. Cursing myself for killing it so quickly, I stab the cleaver into the floor, snapping it in half. When my thoughts finally begin to regain some cohesion, I find myself still digging the broken knife into the floor. The monster is gone, but the pieces of it are scattered everywhere. I stop cutting into the tile, and in the sudden silence I hear Saya's faint sobs coming from a corner in the kitchen.
Saya.
I pull the cowering Saya into my arms. She stiffens in fear at first, but as soon as she realizes that it's me, she clings to my body and cries. I was scared, I was so scared. I don't know what to say, I can only keep holding her. This should never have happened to Saya. Even in this twisted world, it's to blame. Yes, including myself. I couldn't protect her. If I'd been here, then maybe I could have prevented this. I'm sorry, she says again and again in a voice choked with tears. Not wanting to hear that from her, I pull her head into my chest. Don't say that, Saya. It's not your fault. I try to reassure her, but she shakes her head vigorously in denial. No, it is. I did it. I don't understand. What is she saying? You did what? I messed with his brain. She answers, glancing at the dismembered monster with her swollen eyes. I made the inside of his head the same as yours. I made him see the world like you do. It takes me some time to understand the meaning of Saya's words. What? But how? Finally regaining her composure, Saya responds to my confusion in a low voice. I can do stuff like that. I can change the bodies of other living things. I've had this ability since I was born. Every organism is different, so I have to study them in detail before I know how to change them. By doing some research, I figured out what happened to your brain. So I wanted to see if I could do the same thing to someone else. But why? I thought if everyone were like you, they would all be kind to me. My heart aches at the loneliness in her voice, and she confesses her sorrowful wish. But that man, he wasn't kind at all. He said he wanted to hurt me, break me, and she starts crying into my chest again. Unable to say any more, I gently rub her back while trying to get my jumbled thoughts together. What is Saya? That she can do such a thing? The answer is beyond me. However, there's one thing that I can't answer here and now. Saya is mistaken. You think that I'm kind to you because of the accident? Yeah. She nods sadly. I smile and shake my head. You're wrong. That was only the beginning. Our relationship is the sum of so much more. The time you and I have spent together, those days, those experiences, are what made us what we are. You've been there for me, Saya, sharing my pain, giving me hope and joy. That's how you became so important to me, see? It's harder than you think. Saya's still crying, but now her tears feel warm against my chest. Yeah, I understand. I finally understand. Her smile shines through her tears. I only have you for me, Nori. There will never be anyone else. Now, more than ever, I feel the depth of the bond between us, and I'm sure that Saya feels it too. I wrap my arms tightly around her and seal her lips with mine. Saya responds, winding her arms around my neck as our tongues desperately seek each other's warmth. At this moment, Saya is my whole world and I am hers. The earth turns for us alone. Of course, I still haven't told her something very important. I don't know why I never said it before. Perhaps it was because it was so obvious, however. I should put it into words at least once, this oath of mine. Saya,
君のことが
Wait. She stops me with a finger against my lips. Before me, Fuminori, tell me one thing. What do you want?
僕の
What do I want? Saya nods, staring into my eyes with unusual solemnity. Like I said, I can affect the bodies of living things in a way that nothing else can. And now that I've learned how to manipulate human brains, Saya pauses and takes a deep breath before continuing. I can turn you back to normal.
なんだって
What? Until now, that hasn't even been in the realm of possibility. I just have to do the opposite of what I did to that man. It's really simple. I replay Saya's words in my head to be sure of their meaning. So tell me, Fuminori, do you want to return to your old life? Do you want to take back what you lost in the accident? The fuck? Putting the whatchamacallits over her face makes her look ugly as shit. She got a fat ass forehead. This bitch forehead is elongated, bro. What the fuck? She got 3 Rihannas on her shit. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna say I want it all back because I feel like that's going to lead to something very interesting. So that's what I'm gonna go for. I want it all back. But first, well, I think I have it on save at option, right? Like save at choices. Yeah, I have it on save at choices, so it should be fine. Want it all back.
それはもちろん
Well, of
戻
course.
れっていうのが
I answered without thinking.
戻りたいと
If it's possible to go back, then I want to, I think. I've never wondered if there could be any other answer. I stopped dwelling on this question a long time ago. And if I'd been asked before I met Saya, I wouldn't have hesitated. But what about now? What does it mean to wish for the past? And what could it do to me and Saya? As soon as these questions occur to me, my true feelings become unclear. The hurried answer I just gave her was less certain than I thought. Nigga, I'm still unsure whether or not that is a fucking child. So you need to go back to the real world and leave that fucking child. Leave that child behind. You gotta be the evil Kanye West and leave that child behind. Wait. But that insinuates that Kanye might like kids. He might be a pedo. My goat would never. Oh yeah, of course you would. Saya smiled softly, her expression an unreadable mixture of what seems to be sorrow and relief. Seeing it fills me with sudden unease, as though I've just wounded her deeply with my careless words.
なさや
Hey Saya, It's okay, Fuminori, don't say any more. Saya silences me with another kiss, and thrusts her tongue into my mouth with even greater passion than before. As the sweet softness of her tongue clouds my mind, I begin to feel an urgent need to say what she prevented me from saying, to speak those most important words. I want to stop speaking in first person. I don't want to read this in first person anymore. I'm sick of this shit.
さや
Saya. I can't speak. For some reason, my mind is hazy. My consciousness is slipping away as the euphoria from her kiss spreads to my entire body. Sleep well, Fuminori. I hear Saya whisper softly from far away. Don't worry. When you wake up, it'll all be over. It is kind of sad though, because when we wake up, we're gonna see her as a monster too. And she's gonna be all alone again. Wait, I have to tell you something before I sleep. Just one thing. My efforts are meaningless, however, as oblivion calls me into its embrace. When I awoke, the first thing that greeted me was a terrible stink. Mr. Suzumi's body was covered in flies, and I could smell the rotten stench that you would expect from a corpse. The night had ended, but Saya was nowhere to be seen in the morning light. Aside from the blood-covered no corpse party floor, the kitchen looked the same as it had before the accident. In the den, however, the colors that had been so soothing the day before now serve as a stark reminder of what a distant world I've been living in. Despite knowing that it would be futile, I wandered the house searching for Saya. For almost an hour, I tried in vain to deny reality. Then I called the police. When the operator answered, I couldn't stop myself from crying. It had been such a long time since I heard a human voice other than Saya's. As became clear later, Mr. Suzumi had murdered his family before I killed him. Unable to give the police a satisfactory explanation, I was arrested for all 3 murders, and when they found the remains of Takahata Omi in my house, a 4th was added to the charges. Damn! During my interrogation, I told them everything exactly as it happened, in every detail. The detectives didn't believe me, of course, but the doctor who came later did. He had moved me from the jail to a much cleaner white room. That's right. This room looks just as white to me as it does to everyone else. In the end, they declared me incapable of answering for my actions. Everything that had happened to me was real, but part of a reality incompatible with the rest of the world. So the doctors gave me a space all to myself, a place where I could live in my own world. I'm sad that I wasn't believed, but I know it couldn't be helped. In this world, reality is what the majority says, and I had the misfortune to step outside that box. The walls of my room were undeniably white. That, at least, I can be thankful for as I live out the rest of my life here. Everyone said there was never any girl named Saya. Well, so be it. Saya probably was never part of their world. But why shouldn't I be able to hear Saya's voice here in my room? This is my world after all. A continuation of the very real time that we spent together. How long did I wait with such thoughts floating through my mind? One night I awoke to the sound of something crawling down the hallway. The sound would not normally have woken me, but I must have had a premonition that night. Sleeping lighter than usual, I had waited for her arrival, and so I instantly knew it was her.
サヤなんだね。
Saya. She did not answer, but I could feel her outside my door, struggling with some internal conflict.
どうして声
Why won't you let me hear your voice? After a long silence, something small slid through the narrow bars of my peephole. It was a cell phone, the screen already showing a notepad with freshly entered text. My voice will sound strange to you. I couldn't suppress a chuckle. I couldn't suppress a chuckle at Saya's uncharacteristic display of shyness.
そんなこと
I don't care about that at all,
全然気にならない
I said, sending the phone back through the bars.
聞きたい
I just want to hear you,
姿が
see you. After a short pause, the phone returned to my side. Please, let me say the Saya you remember.
そうか
Okay. I started to suspect that it might be so. In the hell my eyes had made of the world, Saya alone had looked normal. I thought that she was somehow unique. In truth, however, she probably had a different kind of unique than I'd imagined. It wasn't that my senses hadn't distorted her appearance, but it was that she had been so unusual as to seem normal to my twisted mind. Saya's true form was something other than what I had known. Now, however, I could see her as she really was. But Saya didn't want that, and it was not for me to question the workings of her heart. I just had to accept the girl's need to keep some things private.
あの日君に言おうとした
I tried to say something to you that day, do you remember? I slid the phone back to her. I was hoping you'd forgotten. I smiled wryly at the text on the screen, wondering if she'd really thought me so heartless.
姿です
How could I forget? No one was listening, but still, it would have been embarrassing to speak the rest aloud, so this time I typed it into the phone. GHIJKLMNOTUVDE WXY MOMNOTU. I slid the phone back through the slot. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, I see. Okay, I see what he did. I see what he did. I love you. I see what he did. I could sense her trembling outside my door. I couldn't hear her or see her, but I still knew. Saya was crying.
僕は構わなかっ
I was ready, you know? Perhaps my word offered no comfort, spoken so late. Even so, I was ready. I wanted to return to my old life, true, but I would have abandoned that wish for Saya. I know that I would have gone with her, hand in hand as far as we could, even to the most forbidden of places. Saya too must have known that I was prepared, and because she knew, she stopped me from saying those words. If I'd spoken that oath, there would have been no going back. Sorry I was a coward. Seeing the words on the screen, I shook my
た
head.
だけが悪いんじゃない
It's not your fault.
あの時僕に
If I hadn't hesitated, you would have found the courage.
勇気を出せた
I was afraid of you, of how you were changing because of me.
仕方ないさ
It's no one's fault. Saya couldn't bring herself to take everything from me, and I couldn't bring myself to give up everything for her. We were too weak to find
さ
happiness.
やはこれからどうするんだ
What will you do now, Saya? I'll keep searching for my dad. He'll know how to send me back from where I came.
そうか
I see.
帰
You
りたい
do want to go home, don't you? A short time passed with no words or messages exchanged. I wonder how many times in that brief silence, yes and no changed places in her mind. Yeah. When the phone finally returned, the characters on the screen seemed strangely uncertain. Well,
お父さん
I hope you find your father. I'll do my best. The time had come for our parting. She had chosen her path, and I had given my blessing. There was nothing more to be said.
もしも気が変わって
If you change your mind, I'll always be here. You can come see me whenever you
い
want.
つでも来ていいから
I will, thank you. Goodbye, Fuminori. I read her final message and returned the phone to the other
さ
side.
よならさよ
Goodbye, Saya. She gently slapped my door in response. Then I heard the sound of her sliding off down the hallway, and I was left alone in the silence of the night. Ever since that day, I've been waiting. Perhaps Saya really did return to where she came from. Perhaps she is wandering today, looking for her father. It must be hard. She must be lonely. When she can no longer stand being alone, she will surely return to me. I'm the only one who will comfort her and whisper sweet nothings in her ear. And so I wait, dreaming of her face and her voice. I wait, forever in my white world. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Ooh, hold on. Okay. That song was tough. Damn, there's a lot of CGs left. Are we doing this right now? Like, are we getting right back into this shit? Is that what we're doing? I guess so. Alright, so I'm considering that the good ending because he went back to his normal life. You know, he's locked. No, I don't think there is a good ending for this damn game. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think there is a good ending for this game. So instead of worrying about good endings, let's just see both endings. Alright, so going back, don't need it anymore.